You know the NFL, right? This massive, multi-billion-dollar empire. Well, what if I told you the whole thing kind of started with a bunch of blue-collar railroad workers? Seriously. Today we're going to dig into the gritty, almost unbelievable story of how pro football really began. I know, it sounds completely nuts, right? Like something out of a movie. But it's actually true. One of the very first teams, the guys who helped found what we now call the NFL, they were railroad workers who practiced on their 45-minute lunch break. That's it. And here they are. Meet the Columbus Panhandles. They got their start way back in 1901, and yeah, they were exactly what I said, workers at the panhandle shops of the Pennsylvania Railroad. Just look at this photo. You can just feel the grit, can't you? No fancy uniforms, no perfect turf, just a bunch of tough, hardworking guys who had no idea they were about to make history. So yeah, we're calling them the NFL's forgotten founders. I mean, you've heard of the Packers, the Bears, of course, but the Panhandles? Probably not. And yet, their place in football history is, well, it's absolutely crucial if you want to understand how we got the league we have today. And here's the kicker. The reason they're so important, they weren't just some random team from back in the day. They were a charter member. Think about that. That means they were literally in the room where it happened. They had a seat at the table when the whole idea of the NFL was being cooked up. They're one of the original bricks in the entire foundation. And that foundation was officially laid on October 3rd, 1920. Now, historians kind of debate which game technically kicked off first that Sunday, but the Panhandles game against the Dayton Triangles is right there, officially recognized as one of the first ever games between two teams in this new league. I mean, talk about a glow-up, from a railroad yard to the history books. Okay, so you're probably wondering, how does a team of railroad workers even get to that point? How is that possible? Well, it was like this perfect storm of smarts, pure muscle, and, get this, a really handy company perk. It all came down to brains, brawn, and railroads. It really boiled down to two things. First, you had the brains of the operation, a guy named Joseph Carr. He was a sports writer who took over the team in 1907. This guy was a visionary. He looked at pro football and thought, hey, this could be just as huge as baseball. And then you had the brawn. Oh man, the brawn. The Nesser brothers. These guys were the team's engine, the main event that got people to actually show up. And let me tell you, the Nesser brothers were absolute legends. We're talking a full-on football dynasty here. 7 brothers. All of them worked as boilermakers for the railroad. And for the early 1900s, they were basically giants. I mean, Frank Nesser was 6'1", 235 pounds. That was huge back then. For almost 20 years, if you were playing the Panhandles, you were really playing the Nessers. It even led to this really cool one-of-a-kind moment in 1921 when Ted Nesser and his son Charlie played together. That's the only time a father-son duo has ever done that in the NFL. Wild. And here's a look at that 1915 team Carr put together. They were so tough and such a huge draw, other teams would actually go out of their way to schedule games against them. Why? Because they knew if they just put the Nesser brothers are coming to town on a poster, they were guaranteed to sell tickets. But see, their reputation wasn't just about how big they were. It was about how they played. They were known far and wide as the toughest, roughest team in football. And that was a reputation they earned on the gridiron and probably perfected back on the railroad tracks. Joseph Carr's whole playbook for running the team was, honestly, pure genius. Think about it. Step 1, who are you going to hire? Easy, the tough guys working right there on the railroad. Step 2, what about travel costs? A huge expense. 0, zilch, nada. The players were railroad employees, which meant they got free train passes. This was a game changer. It let them be a traveling team without the costs. Step 3, practice. You know the answer to that one, that 45-minute lunch break. And step 4, the master stroke. You take that rough, gritty style of play and you make it your brand. I mean, just look at this picture. You can feel the intensity, right? This wasn't the slick, slow-motion replay football we watch on Sundays. This was raw. It was physical. This was a style of football born in a railroad yard, not some fancy college program. And what's so important to get is that their rough play wasn't a problem to be fixed. It was the whole point. It was a feature, not a bug. Sure, the newspapers might have clutched their pearls a bit, but the fans, they absolutely loved it. They couldn't get enough. Joseph Carr knew exactly what he was selling. He was selling toughness.
And this whole strategy, it didn't just sell tickets. It won them a ton of games. They weren't just some traveling circus act. No, they were dominant, especially in their own backyard. Get this, against other teams from Columbus, their record was 33-5. 33 wins, 5 losses. They absolutely owned that city.
So, okay, we've established the Panhandles were a powerhouse in their region, right? But for Joseph Carr, that was never the end game. His vision was way bigger. He wanted a real national league. And he helps make that happen in, of all places, a car showroom. And the whole birth of the NFL, it happened ridiculously fast. It started with a small meeting of Ohio teams in August of 1920. But the real moment came just a month after that. On September 17th, guys from a bunch of teams all got together in a Hupmobile car dealership in Canton, Ohio, of all places, and formed the American Professional Football Association, or APFA. And you bet the Panhandles were there. They were welcomed in as a founding franchise, and just a few weeks later, they were playing in one of its very first games.
This picture here is from 1921, and it really shows the team in this brand new world. They're not just a big deal in Ohio anymore. Now they're part of a national organization, a league. It was the exact dream their owner, Joseph Carr, had been working to build from the ground up. But, as pro football started to get bigger and more serious, that gritty lunch break model the Panhandles used, well, it just couldn't last forever. So their story doesn't end with them hoisting a trophy. But it does end with a legacy that's, you could argue, way more important. In the end, it came pretty fast. The league got more professional, which meant costs went up, salaries went up, and that whole lunch break, free train pass thing just wasn't going to cut it anymore. They changed their name to the Columbus Tigers for a bit, but then, in 1926, the team folded for good, just 6 years after they helped create the entire league. So if you go digging through the NFL record books, you're not going to find the Panhandles name on any championship trophies. Not one. So by that standard, you might just look at them and say, well, they were a failure. But you would be totally missing the point, because their real legacy, their real win, it wasn't on the scoreboard. It was in the front office. That visionary guy, their owner, Joseph Carr, yeah, he's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And Carr's impact was, well, it was monumental. This is the guy who managed a team of lunch break players, and just 1 year after the league was founded, he became its president. And 2 years later, in 1922, it was Carr who gave it the name we all know today, the National Football League, the NFL. So yeah, the Panhandles team disappeared. But their owner, he basically became the architect of the modern league. Their legacy isn't just one team. It's the entire league. It really makes you think, doesn't it? The biggest, most powerful things in our world so often come from the most humble, unexpected places. So the next time you're watching a game, just for a second, remember those railroad workers practicing on their lunch break. And maybe ask yourself, what other forgotten stories are out there that built the world we live in today?